Refunds are on the way for property owners who registered to run short-term rentals in one city. Southport is returning those fees following a judgment made against the city of Wilmington on a similar process last year. Southport first adopted the amendment in July of 2021. It required people to register to keep compliance with city standards and occupancy taxes. The court ruled that cities cannot require short-term rentals to be registered. Southport officials say refunds should be processed by the end of this month.